And good evening. I'd like to call the special meeting of Dare County Board of Education to order. Today is Monday, March 13th, 2023, and we're meeting at the Dare County Administration Building in Manteo, and the time is now 4:30. Before we begin, I'd like to request a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye. All opposed? The agenda has been approved. Next, I would like to request a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I've been required to say this. I move we go into closed session to consult with the Board of Education attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in N.C.G.S. 143-3118, 11A3, and to consider confidential personal matters as provided in N.C.G.S. 1433-18, 11A6.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are now in closed session.
I thought, yeah. Georgia says I had to make a motion. Because I done it in there. Yeah, we gotta go live.
Go live, ready?
I make a motion, we go back in open session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Motion we adjourn. We have to adjourn this
Thank you so
special
much.
session.
Yes. I'd like to request a motion to adjourn
The special
the special
session.
session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are now adjourned. Thank you. Didn't know we were in a hurry. Good evening. I'd like to call the March 13th, 2023 meeting of the Dare County Board of Education to order. We are meeting at the Dare County Administration Building in Manteo, and the time is now 5:13. Before we begin, I'd like to request a moment of silence. Thank you. Next, I would like to recognize any Board of Commissioners that might be present. I see none. And now turn the meeting over to Mr. Wicker to provide the welcome and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'd like to welcome everyone who's here tonight and everyone viewing online. And if everyone would just stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business this evening is to approve the agenda. But before we continue, I'd like to request a motion to amend the agenda in order to revise the personnel consent agenda.
I move we amend the agenda in order to revise the personnel consent agenda as discussed in closed session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The agenda has been amended. I now need an approval to amend the consent agenda. I'm sorry. Is that correct?
You amended the consent agenda.
I'm sorry.
Now to approve the agenda.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion we approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Say
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next, we'll move to public comment. I'll turn the meeting over to our board attorney, Mr. Brian Shaw.
I understand you do not have any public comment. If I'm correct, let me know. If not, I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. I'll now open the floor for announcements. Are the announcements, Mr. Superintendent?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure. Is it on? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with the board tonight. I want to give you sort of a short update as an announcement tonight on what's going on in Dare County schools. I've had the opportunity to visit all of our schools and be in them multiple times. And I am thrilled to tell you that the learning and the teaching that's going on in those schools is phenomenal. I want to congratulate all of our staff. I want to congratulate all of our administrators for the work that they're doing for the students in Dare County. And I want to urge each and every one of you that any opportunity you have to get by one of our schools and go in the school and see what's happening in our classrooms, I think you'll be more than pleased. I also want to thank you for the work you're doing that supports teaching and learning in Dare County schools. We've pretty much put together our team in central office right now, and being able to provide those resources through you and with your help to each of our buildings is something I think we can all be very proud of. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to say that.
Thank you, Mr. Bass Knight. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Next item on the agenda is reports and items for information. There are no items listed, so we'll move on to the next agenda item. Unless there's something you'd like to add. Next is unfinished business. There are no items listed for discussion. I'm sorry, did I miss something?
Yes.
I turned one page too quick. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is reports and items for information. There are no items listed, so we'll move on to the agenda. Next is unfinished business. There are no items listed for discussion, so we'll move on to new business, and I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Blackstock. Mr. Blackstock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have two items. The first is Regulation 4400R. Typically, regulations don't need board approval, but we wanted to bring this one because there are some changes to that were necessary because of our vote on dual enrollment. So that's part of this policy. There are also some technical changes to 4400R to adjust the grading scale to reflect our current practices and things like that. So we're asking for the board's approval of that regulation tonight.
Make a motion, we approve the regulation as presented by Mr. Blackstock.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I've got a quick question on here. Scrolling down to it. The section, where is it at? 6, line 110 and 111. It says parents used to say can contact to check their child's attendance record, but it's changed with they can check their parent portal account to view their child's. Now, the concern I have with that is there are non-techie parents. I still think we should give them an option to call the school to find out. I mean, that's just my thought on it.
And I would suggest that option would always be there. I mean, the
Yeah.
idea of the policy, this regulation to say this is the typical way folks would check. And we can say or if we'd like. I just think most parents check using the parent portal, so that's why we changed that language.
My preference would have the or in there, just for those that may not be tech savvy and may not know how to get in the parent portal and so forth.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion to approve Regulation 44R as presented by Mr. Blackstock?
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
one moment. We can make that change without having to bring it back to the board. So if you approve
Okay.
it, we can go ahead and make the change.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second? I apologize. Yes. We have a motion to second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Approve. All opposed? Motion passes. Next, Mr. Blackstock will present a proposed school calendar for the school year 2023-2024.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had an opportunity as part of Superintendent Bass Knight's initiative to revitalize our advisory committees to the superintendent. We had a week-long session of meetings with our parent advisory, student advisory, classified staff advisory, certified staff advisory, and our leadership team to gather input for our school calendar. Probably one of the broadest gathering of information on the calendar that I've ever been part of, but it was an opportunity to have all those different groups come together. We gave each group a chance just to offer their ideas about what they'd like to see in the calendar. and just completely without any restriction. What would you like to see? And then I went into a brief description of the calendar law. I want to do that for you tonight. I'm not going to take a lot of time with it. But I think it's helpful to understand the context of how the calendar gets created and what rules we're trying to operate under. So if we'll, Holly, go to the next slide on that. Our calendars cannot start any earlier than the Monday closest to August 26th. So mathematically, it could be as early as August 23rd or as late as August 29th is the earliest possible start date. The latest ending date is the Friday closest to June 11th. So anywhere from June 8th to June 14th could be the latest possible closing date, unless we have a waiver, which we typically don't get the waivers because all schools in the district have to be closed all day for the purposes of a waiver. And typically, I believe it means you miss 8 days of school in 6 of the last 10 years. And we might miss as many as 8 days one of the past 10 years, but we never have that kind of consistency. So we never qualify for the waiver. And in our case, again, even if Hatteras did, which they don't, it has to be all the schools to qualify for that. The next is that the state does not allow educational purpose waivers. We can't say Dare County Schools feels like it would be better for our students to do X, Y, or Z. Legislature is not going to hear any of those. Our calendar has to cover 9 calendar months. We have to have a minimum of 185 days or 1,025 hours of instruction. Every district that I'm aware of uses hours of instruction because with the restriction on when you can start and the restriction on when you have to end, getting 185 school days in and still giving folks a week-long spring break or a 2-week winter break is virtually impossible to do to meet those requirements. So we run longer school days and fewer than 185 days in order to meet those requirements. We have to have at least 9 teacher work days. We have to make sure 2 of those at least 2 of those are designated as optional so teachers can take leave. We try to do more than that to give our teachers autonomy when we can. We designate certain work days as professional development or conference days, and then others as optional days. We have to have 10 annual vacation leave days. That's kind of a North Carolina peculiarity. They increased teacher contracts by 10 days and then told them they had to take those 10 days off. And that makes sense to legislators. I'm not sure if it makes sense to anybody else. No offense, because I guess y'all are technically legislators. I didn't mean it that way. But anyway, you have to have the same number of legal holidays as every other state employee, and that's 11. We can't have school on Sunday. We can have school on Saturday, but if any of you were around about 10 or 15 years ago when that was going on, it was not pretty. Veterans Day is the only day in the calendar that we must observe on the day that it's observed. Sometimes it's the 10th, but typically it's the 11th. Every other holiday we can move around. We could have students attend school on Thanksgiving and Christmas if we chose to, but just because we can doesn't necessarily mean we should. Calendar has to include 215 days. So when you add up all the student days, all the work days, all the leave days, and all the holidays, that has to equal 215. And that creates some restrictions. Basically, the first day the teacher shows up in August has got to be 215 days to the last day that they leave in June. What you do between those is up to you, but you can't take days off or add days on that without violating the law. Some things that DARE has gotten used to is that we typically in most schools have about a week long or more of teacher work days before the students start for us to have district meetings and principal meetings and chances to have open houses and teachers to prepare for their for the classrooms. We have gotten used to having early dismissals before major like Monday holidays, and a lot of that is getting our buses off the road before everybody comes to the beach for Memorial Day or Labor Day weekend. We have gotten into the habit of having a work day or some kind of day before Thanksgiving where students are not required to attend school, so that we have folks that have to travel a long way to get to grandmother's house for Thanksgiving. We've gotten used to 2 weeks at the winter break at Christmas. We've gotten used to a week at Easter for spring break. And so these are things that we've tried to include in what we have included in the calendar that we've done. This is the proposed calendar. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on it, but I will say that, and I'll answer any questions you have. But a lot of the things you see on this calendar are because our parents, our teachers, our students asked for these things. You know, they made requests. For example, if you look at there's a conference day in February. We have had typically an early dismissal for conferences in the spring because we figured you'd have more in the fall and fewer in the spring. But our teachers, especially at the elementary level, need that full day in order to get their conferences done. So we changed that. We have some required professional development days where our teachers are having to do their letters training in October and November. So those are fixed. We had staff and parents ask for another optional workday after the Christmas or winter break for families to prepare to come back to school and for teachers to come back to school. That's there. Trying to think of the other. The Friday before Labor Day as an optional workday was a request from parents who found it difficult to be able to travel that weekend without the full day off. So there's just some things there. But even with taking all the input, accepting that input, trying to work it in where we could, this calendar still provides us well above the 1,025 minimum hours that were required. So if we have some weather days, we don't immediately have to start making those up. We don't have to change the calendar. We have some room in this calendar to make up some weather days. And again, it meets the requirements of the state laws. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Steve, can you share exactly how many of the extra days we had?
I don't have that visually, but I can tell you that it's 6.22. Yeah. So basically, and it's a shame that I remember that, but basically, if you take our school that has the shortest instructional day, and you would think all of our schools would have the same instructional day, but if anybody on the board happened to be a transportation director, he might be able to provide insight. But you can't always start at the exact same time because buses do double runs, and so one of our schools got 10 minutes less than the other. So we use the smallest instructional day as our the one that we use to determine the days. And if you divide it by that number, we have about 6.5 days available that we can not have to make up. We might decide to make some of those up because that is instructional time we might want to recover, but we won't be in a situation where we can't meet the required legislation because we'll be able to keep an eye on those days and make sure that we have room to make them up.
How many virtual days are we allowed to have? Is there a set number or?
So current legislation, and I should have said that phrase more often. Current legislation allows us to have 5 remote days for inclement weather. It's pretty specific. We can't just decide, we're going to throw a remote day in the day after Super Bowl. Might be a good idea, but we can't do that unless there's inclement weather, and that's
Well, there's a good chance there could be a
regulation.
nor'easter on the day after.
It could be. It could be.
It is possible.
Yeah. Now, I say current legislation every year, and Brian can help me if I might get this mixed up, but every year, I believe the House will have all these calendar flexibility bills that they'll put forward, and the Senate will not, look at any of them. So, everybody says, oh, we might have calendar flexibility, and typically it doesn't happen, but it always could happen, and we might be back here having to change things if they change the law.
Does that also, like, if you have Hatters, for example, we have more days that we need than up the beach, then they would have to make those days up if we went past 5?
So it's not, I don't believe the law is specific, so I would interpret this to say that each school, so once you've used your 5, then you have to start making up
From that
time.
school.
However, those are your 5 remotes. You still have the bank time that's in this calendar.
So I'm saying, suppose, I don't wish this on you by any means, but another
Thank you.
Ocracoke happens.
Thank you. No, that won't happen.
No,
Please, Lord.
I was there with you, I know.
So what Steve was alluding to is in total, if we had 5 weather days that we could do virtually, let me back up and do it the other way. We have 6 bank days. if we had a storm, let's say Hatteras got hit by a storm, we talked about this during the process. Typically, unless we get brushed, and that means it doesn't actually come here, we're going to have more than one day off. You're looking at 3, maybe 5. Okay. That's going to eat into those 6 days. Now, if we have to take those 6 full days, then hopefully after 6 days, we would be in a situation where we could start doing some virtual instruction if we had power on after 6 days. So at that point, we would have another 5 virtual days we could kick in. So now we're up to 11 days. And, we did in 22. So that became part of our discussions that, storms typically don't put us out for a day. But that's all in the calculation.
Ms. Blackstack, thank you for that. That was, there's a lot to putting a calendar together.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
well, it's a puzzle. It's a fun puzzle. Yeah.
And he loves it. He loves it.
Is there a motion to adopt the proposed school calendar for the school year 2023, 2024 as presented?
I'll make the motion to approve the 2023, 2024 calendar as presented.
We have a
Second.
motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Once again, thank you, Mr. Blackstock. This concludes our business portion of the meeting. I would like to now open the floor for comments from the board. Mr. Twitty. Ms. Balance.
I had the pleasure of visiting a couple schools today. I went to Nags Head Elementary, Central Office, and Manteo Elementary. And I want to tell you, the stuff going on at those schools is pretty impressive. So Curtis took me up to the 5th grade class. And the 5th grade teachers are teaching those kids soft skills, which was such an amazing pleasure to see because kids today don't have soft skills. So they're teaching their students how to acknowledge people that are coming to the door and welcoming them and looking adults in the eye and shaking hands and just, I had goosebumps. I was so impressed with that. So if Curtis, if you're listening, super excited for what you have going on at your school. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Balance. Mr. Wicker. Ms. Bothwell.
I also had the pleasure of visiting 2 elementary schools today and central office and just giving a raw out to all the hard work that y'all do and the principals. Those kids, yeah, really flipping amazing. And I'm so proud of our schools. I'm just telling you. Oh, and I went to Mamma Mia. Oh my God. The best show ever. It was so good. Those high school kids, they could be on Broadway. No, it was awesome. It was awesome. Loved it. Loved it.
I'm good.
Mr. Woody.
I'm good.
Yeah, actually, as far as the performing arts go, I was there for all 3 nights of Mamma Mia because 2 kids in it. But as far as the performing arts go, I can't say enough about First Flight High School. Just in the last month alone, we've had the all-county orchestra, which was all schools represented. And I don't know if there's that many, string programs in Eastern North Carolina. And right after that, you had all-county chorus, which was more or less, the same actors. I'm not sure elementary schools were represented there. Again, that's phenomenal. And I can't say enough about the teachers, that put this on. Leslie Erickson, John Buford, Lauren Deal, and Monica Penn. Just hats off to you. That last month has been something else as far as going and seeing performances. And I would encourage anybody to go and see them because these things fund themselves largely through attendance and pass the hat and that sort of thing. And it was a record-breaking attendance for Mamma Mia.
It was awesome.
Excellent.
It was so good.
Mr. Bassnight, any further comments?
No, thank you, sir.
We do have an amazing school district with amazing students, teachers, staff, and thank you for all that you do. And I think that's it for tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I motion we adjourn.
Do we have a second? We have a second. We are adjourned.
Shortest meeting in history.